On News Talk 1330, FM 106.3. Good morning, Community Voice Program. My name is Colin Worthington. It is 8:30. My guest this morning is the Chief Magistrate for the County of Haralson. He's seeking re-election right now in Haralson in the general primary. Has one challenger named Blaine Cochran, a police officer out of Bremen. Jason's been Chief Magistrate for the last 4 years. He was appointed prior to that. We'll get into more detail, but I will remind you that early voting is going on right now in Haralson County as well as Carroll County. But in Haralson County, early voting going on at the courthouse in Buchanan. I believe this Saturday might be the last Saturday to vote early, but then another week of Monday through Friday early voting before the May 21st general primary. This morning we are talking about the race for Chief Magistrate in Haralson County. Jason Blackmon, good morning, sir. I probably need to learn how to do these mics this morning. A little slow. Sorry about that, Joel and Josh, but all right. Well, tell us, Jason, who are you? How did we get to where we are now? Give us the backstory on Jason Blackmon.
I was born in Haralson County about 58 years ago. I know I don't look it, but raised, went to Haralson County High School, graduated, then joined the Georgia State Patrol in 1984. And I worked for 30 years for the Georgia State Patrol. Rose up to the ranks of lieutenant, was over pretty much everything from Northwest Georgia area. And Georgia State Patrol taught me a lot. It was a really good experience. I got to see some incredible things. I got to work the 88 Democratic Convention, the 96 Olympics, and in the 2008 G8 Summit, I was actually in charge of an 80-man mobile field force. And we were set up for riots and set up to respond wherever we were needed. And it was just some interesting training and interesting things that go in all that. I retired from Georgia State Patrol in 2014. Went to work for Eddie Mixon, the sheriff at Haralson County. And for 2.5 years, I ran the jail, was jail administrator. And during those 2.5 years, I was kind of in charge of a liaison to RKR Construction while they were building the new jail. We're converting the old boot camp into the new jail. And we had a limited budget, but we got, what I think is a really good building out of the process. And
you got to go to West Virginia in 2012.
Got to go to West Virginia. Part of when Georgia State Patrol, one of the things I did was assessment centers. I went to 6 different states and sat down and listened to candidates for promotion go through a process, and we graded them on leadership abilities, and judgment was one of the things we graded on. And I did that for several years, and I got to love West Virginia. It's just one of the most beautiful states there are. People just don't know about it.
Is it unique that both candidates in this race for magistrate have like law enforcement backgrounds? I mean, initially, we'll talk about what the role is, what the magistrate judge does. But is it unique though to see a race where they both are law enforcement?
The last few magistrates at Haralson County, I don't think I know one had law enforcement experience, kind of similar, but it's just sometimes it's a natural progression. You work when you're in law enforcement, you work a lot with the magistrate court, and especially when you're in the jail, you work tremendously amount with the magistrate court, and it's just sometimes it's a natural progression to go into that.
We have it in Carroll County. We have the race for magistrate chief going on as well, and at least one of the candidates was like, this is what I've always wanted to do. I've wanted to be a magistrate judge, and she's an attorney. She's so that's what she's wanted to do since she was 15, 16 years old. I guess it's probably not the same thing. That's not what you're striving for as a team.
Actually, this one, my dad was probate judge for 24 years in Haralson County. Up until from 1977 to 2001, he was probate judge. And I've always kind of thought, I'd like to be a probate judge. I thought that would be something good. But, Eddie Holtze, when my dad retired, Eddie Holtze was elected to that position. And Eddie is great at what he does. He's one of and I would never, I used to ask him every once in a while, I say, Eddie, you going to run again next year? And he would always say he was, and Eddie's fantastic. He knows so much about that. I couldn't hold a candle to him. And I never really pursued it further. After I worked at the jail for about 2.5 years, seasons of life, my dad passed away, and just kind of wanted to get out of law enforcement for a little bit. So I went to work for Wayne Davis Concrete. I was their safety director, and did that for 3 years, and I actually loved that job. It was got to see a lot of the country, got to do a lot of good things. The first time I've ever worked in an industry outside of law enforcement or government, and I really enjoyed it.
Jason Blackmon, our guest on this morning's Community Voice program, Chief Magistrate for Haralson County. his re-election campaign going on right now. As far as the role for chief magistrate, that's set on the state level. So I mean,
Yes.
Every county is the
Yes.
same role. Then explain us, tell us a little bit about that role, what that entails.
Well, some of the smaller counties, the magistrate and the probate court actually work together, and it's the same judge. Our county is large enough as to 30,000 people that the needs are such that we need separate officers in there. The magistrate judge, we handle on the criminal side. When an officer takes a warrant, we make sure that there's probable cause for the warrant. We're kind of the check and balance on that. So we'll do the probable cause for the warrant. Then also, according to a law schedule and certain laws about it, then we set bonds on things that we can set bonds on. So that's what we do on the criminal side. There's about 5 different charges that the magistrate court can hear. One of those is criminal trespass. Another one's misdemeanor shoplifting, misdemeanor marijuana. The magistrate court can hear that, and we do hear some of those from time to time. Then it's county ordinances. We hear county ordinance cases and dog pound cases, animal control cases. And on the criminal side, that's pretty much limited to what we do. On the civil side, we hear what we call statements of claim. It's basically when you're suing somebody. It could be a credit card suing for back payment. It could be you suing your neighbor for some kind of problem, or it could be a contractor that didn't finish their work correctly, and you're suing to get that. So we hear with testimony, and it's kind of like I've heard said before, it's kind of like people's court. There's limits. The limit's $15,000. But that's and the court is accessible to the public. If you file a lawsuit today, then it's not going to be very long before you're sitting in front of a judge and you get to hear your case.
And in my one experience in civil court, I do see that the magistrate judge, is actually kind of more helpful. It's direct communication with the plaintiff or defendant. Almost helping along. So you have to have some sort of knowledge, to be able to assist.
You do, and we're not allowed to speak to them before court. If someone comes in the office and they have a possible case, then I can't talk to them because it's ex parte communication. I can't talk to one without the other. So we can't give them any advice. But once we get into court, then we have both parties there. We're able to hear what's going on, and we don't run it with the objections and the things like that. We do.
You're trying to solve it. We're trying
to solve a problem. We're trying to see what happens. And the great thing about civil court cases, it's based on preponderance of the evidence. So unfortunately for some people, 51% evidence means that you prevail in that trial. Unlike the standard of proof for a criminal trial is beyond reasonable doubt. But for a civil case, it's preponderance of the evidence, 51%.
Jason Blackmon is Chief Magistrate for Haralson County, our guest on this morning's Community Voice program. Before we take our first break, encourage you, if you're watching on the Newstalk 1330 WLBB Facebook page, to post any questions or comments you might have up there. We'll take a look at those during our break. Before we do go to the break, you were at 24, you would have been in office during COVID. Talk about how that was working. The cases piling up. Are you through all that now? Are things moving smoothly? Is there still a backlog?
They are. I actually took office during COVID, or right in the midst of COVID. There was some mandates sent down from the state about evictions during that time, but there were certain criteria had to be met, and if those criteria wasn't met, then the evictions or the dispossessories went on as filed, and we did a few dispossessories during that time, and because the criteria wasn't met, to postpone those dispossessories. But once COVID, we never really got behind. Once COVID let up, and the courthouse for a while was under basically a lockdown. It was hard to even come in the courthouse, but things got better. Now we're back to running normal. Fortunately, for our office in 2022, we were recognized by the Judicial Council as one of the top 10% of the courts in the state that had a 100% closure rate, and I was very proud of that. That means all the cases that came in were took care of in the amount of time that was allotted to do that.
I did ask you. You do wear a robe.
Well, I do.
Yeah. Do they supply that for you to the county, or
they don't?
And you don't get multiple choices. You just get one. You got to keep that clean.
My first robe came from Al Johnson, and when a magistrate court or a new judge is elected, then he's assigned to a mentor, and my mentor was Judge Johnson, and he was quite a character. And he had several robes, and he let me borrow one of his robes until I could purchase one. I thought a lot of Al. He was a good friend and just a really unique judge.
He was unique, absolutely. All right, time right now is 8:41. We'll take our first break. Jason Blackmon, Chief Magistrate for Haralson County, our guest on this morning's Community Voice. We will be back in 1 minute. News Talk 1330 FM 106.3.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
The AP Scholar Journey at Oak Mountain Academy is designed to provide students with a clearly defined advanced placement curriculum track to earn a series of distinctions upon graduation. This journey enables academically prepared students to pursue college-level studies throughout 17 AP courses in 5 subject categories while enrolled at OMA. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to journey with us on the mountain. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
841. Welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice, News Talk 1330 FM 106.3. My name's Colin Worthington. My guest is Jason Blackmon, Chief Magistrate for Haralson County. Re-election campaign ongoing. Early voting in Haralson County continues through Saturday of this week, and the next week it's Monday through Friday. And the only place for early voting is the Buchanan, the courthouse in Buchanan. But then if you wait till May 21st, you get to go to your own little personal precinct polling place, and I know a lot of people like to do that. So, and I'm assuming in Haralson County you don't vote at the Buchanan courthouse at all on election day.
No, it's at the
it's all
the rec department.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, for Buchanan.
Got Jason Blackmon, again, our guest on this morning's Community Voice. I kind of joke about this with you, but I mean, make this sexy for us to go out there and vote, Jason. I mean, this, if this was the one race on the ballot, how would people be encouraged to go out there, and make a decision, to make a decision on who should be this judge?
Well, as we said, this is the most accessible court that there is. If you've got an issue, particularly, one of the big things we do is dispossessories and landlord and tenant relationships, and there's a big thick book of laws on that. But there are some tough times to get tenants out that you have to follow the law to do what you're supposed to do, and we have to judge that. So we're very popular with landlords because we're sometimes their only relief. If you have a minor statement of claim, a minor auto crash, we're accessible, and you can get to court very quickly. There's another thing we do. It's called a pre-warrant hearing, and that is if you feel like you were wronged and you call the sheriff's office and you don't get satisfaction, then you can come to us, and basically we'll have another hearing, what's called a pre-warrant hearing, to see if there is enough evidence for a warrant. Very rarely is there, because our police officers recognize probable cause, and when there's no more, on a rare occasion when we do have a pre-warrant hearing, more probable cause will come up than the police had at the time, and we may be able to issue a warrant. But we do like to hold those, and it gives people, nothing else, gives them a voice, gives them a chance to be heard, and to have their problem, listened to and dealt with.
I was surprised to learn this about a month ago, because Carroll County over the last 2-3 months just decided to work on the e-warrants. I mean, it's a county of 190,000 people, and Haralson County of 30,000 people. You already had those active.
That was the first thing I did when I took office. We went to our software provider and said, "Do you offer e-warrants?" And they lit up like, "Yes, we do." And we got that put into place. And before, they had to come to my house middle of the night, whenever, to get a warrant. And now it's all done through technology. And when the warrant is signed, it immediately goes to the jail, to the DA's office, back to the police department that wrote it, and then we have a copy also. And it's a very, very, works very good, and there's very few problems with it.
And that's what I was going to say. What's, is it 100%? Is it foolproof? I mean, it does beat somebody driving out to get something signed and then it not being accurate or something, and then having to go back and do it again. It probably saves a lot of time and saves manpower as well.
It does. And sometimes, I've got the benefit of sitting at a computer most times, or have one close by, that I can read the law. And if the probable cause don't match the law, I can say, okay, what you've sent don't match this. You need to, read this and see what, and make changes or make whatever we need to do to make the crime, whatever the crime was, we get the proper charge for the crime.
What is the most common, I guess, flaw or mistake when those are being filled out and sent to you that you have to get corrected?
Just to give you an example, and this is, to me, this is because of a law that's real difficult to understand. There's 3 cruelty to children statutes. There's first degree, second degree, and third degree. They differ. The first 2 differ slightly, but they do differ. And third degree is a misdemeanor. First 2 are a felony. Even our warrant program has some incorrect information when it prints out a little blurb of what the law is. Even that program has a little incorrect information. And unless you deal with that charge every day, which thank goodness we don't, then it's sort of hard to read those. And we'll say, okay, what you have is this one. You don't necessarily have this one. But that's the main one I see that's kind of tough to deal with. A lot of the other ones, family violence, defined. What is a family violence? Sometimes the family members are clearly defined in what constitutes family violence. And we have to say, well, this don't really meet the family violence statute. This is, they're just, I believe it or not, cousins don't count.
That's what we think up in West Virginia, too.
Thank you very much.
There you go. Jason Blackmon, our guest this morning, Chief Magistrate for Haralson County. How do you deal with your own personal views getting in the way when having to make a judgment that you maybe don't agree that's correct in the eyes of the law? Have you, can you think of a situation where you had to balance that? I mean, I imagine you're going to say, well, hey, I went by the law. But, I mean, have you ever had to deal with that to where you actually had to say, boy, it just...
Well, fortunately, I've dealt with the law 30 years, 35 years of my whole life. And you have to make, even as a trooper, even working in the jail, sometimes you have to concede to things that may not be your own personal beliefs. I think even more so as a judge, I feel like that's why we wear the black robe, because it makes us plain. It makes us, not stand out in any direction, any mannerisms whatsoever. We're neutral. And you look at the, Lady Liberty has on a blindfold. So sometimes the things that you may have a personal feeling about, you have to rule according to the law. And that's what I always refer back to is the law. How the law was written, that's what we go by.
This role is every 4 years, right? I mean,
Yes.
It's up for election every 4 years. Before the show, we had talked about some potential state legislation that's being considered that might expand, that could have an effect. I mean, it's not been approved. I don't know how far it is, but you said that there's at least discussions.
They talk about it at our training sessions. Right now, our limits for recovery is $15,000, and there's talk to raise it to 25. And I've also heard the number 50 thrown around, 50,000 limit.
And how could that affect the courts?
It would open up for a lot more lawsuits to be filed in our court. And I think what they've done now, they've got an appeal process that's very seamless. If you want to appeal what happened in the magistrate court, then you have a certain procedure that you follow and you can appeal. And I think they feel like the appeal will allow a better justice to be served. If a magistrate makes a mistake or some kind of clerical mistake, or if the person feels like they were wronged, then they have an option to get that seen again. And the 50,000 would take a huge load off of our superior courts, and where they have so much to deal with in the superior court level, that would load up the magistrate courts a little more.
How many employees are in the magistrate court?
I have a chief clerk that's been there about 5 years. She's excellent. She's the reason we had that 100% closure rate. She knows everything, and she's just if anyone has questions, they refer to her. She knows a lot about the law. She knows a lot about the other courts, and she is such a helper of people. When people call, a lot of times, I don't know, I think sometimes our phone number is the first one that rings. When they Google Haralson County Courthouse, our number is the first one up, and she directs them to where they need to go. She's great. Then we have an assistant clerk that helps with the paperwork. And then when I was elected, I hired an associate judge, because sometimes I'm not going to be in town. And we want to make sure that we're covered. The associate judge, she handles like truancy court. We let her handle truancy court, and then she comes in and does some other things that we do, filing garnishments and things like that. So we have a total of three full-time, and then our part-time.
Does truancy court deal with parents too, or just the
It
student?
deals only with parents. We can't deal with the students. That's a juvenile issue. We're one of probably less than 10 courts in the state, magistrate courts, that does truancy. and we're constantly trying to make it work. Truancy is filled with recidivism, as I say that right.
Yeah. And what are you seeing as the biggest reasons? It's not just a kid skipping school because he didn't want to take a test that day or things like that. It's
some of these are 5, 6, 7-year-old kids that can't get to school, and they don't. The kids don't have a whole lot of responsibility in that case. Sometimes it's parents, and there are issues that we listen to that. We give the parents always a chance to talk and say, okay, what's going on? What's happening? And we've actually heard some horror stories that we've had to pass on up to juvenile court or even to DFACS and about what's going on in the house. But our goal is to make sure that the parents are following the law and getting their kids in school.
Jason Blackmon, our guest on this morning's Community Voice program, Chief Magistrate for Haralson County. Time right now is 8:52. Again, you'll have one more segment to throw any questions or comments in there on the Facebook page if you'd like me to share those with our guest. Remember, early voting continues through Saturday of this week. Today's Wednesday, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Next week, you got Monday through Friday, no Saturday. And then Election Day is May the 21st, general primary, and this is a race between two Republicans, correct? So
Correct.
This is it. You got to, if you want to vote for this race, you got to get the Republican ballot in Haralson County. Mm-hmm. All right, we'll take our final break. Come back with about 8 minutes. Community Voice brought to you by Tanner Health System and Oak Mountain Academy.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
The customized academic scholar journey at Oak Mountain Academy is individually designed to provide students with a personalized, clearly defined academic track that earns the student a series of distinctions upon graduation. This journey enables academically driven students to pursue a focused, rigorous course of study personalized to their wants and desires. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to journey with us on the mountain. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
Eight five three. Welcome back. Oh, you're JB2. Wow, it's everywhere, isn't it? All right, Community Voice. It just dawned on me. Community Voice brought to you by Tanner Health System, Oak Mountain Academy. My name is Colin Worthington. My guest is Jason Blackmon, JB, another JB, Chief Magistrate for Haralson County. We'll try and sneak in a couple questions and give you at least 2 minutes to give us that front door speech to tell us why you should be reelected. Bonds, one of the potential big jobs for a magistrate judge is setting bonds, and you said pretty minor offensive, right? I mean, it's not like you're not setting bond for a murderer.
No, we go by the law, and there's a law that addresses bonds just about. So about 60% of the bonds that I do are covered by that law. And for misdemeanors, the law says under no circumstances shall a misdemeanor case be denied a bond, and that's pretty easy to see. Yeah. And then on the other end, I cannot set a bond for anything that carries a life sentence: murder, rape, armed robbery. I can't set a bond. That goes to the Superior Court, and then the rest of it says basically there's 4 reasons I can deny a bond. I can deny a bond because the person might flee. If they got a lot of failure to appears on their record, then that's a reason to deny a bond.
Based on history.
Exactly, perfectly on history. They might flee if there's evidence they'll commit a new felony. There's no greater proof of future behavior than past behavior. So if this is their 3rd felony, what we kind of do as a rule, if they're out on bond on a felony and they commit a new felony of the same manner, more than likely, we keep them in jail because it's evident they're going to commit a new felony. Then if there's a fear, if this is where there's a person that may be injured if we let someone out.
Who determines that fear? You determine that fear, or do you get sense the fear from the offended?
A lot of times I talk to the officer. If the officer has one, then they'll intone to me how the defendant, what goes on, and see if this person needs to be kept in for a fear. Unfortunately, a lot of that is battery family violence issues. Battery family violence is a misdemeanor. which the law says under no circumstances shall they be denied bond. So we do put conditions on them, basically with stay away orders. They cannot call, talk to, or anyone, and if they do, then there's some laws that address that, and they are back in jail then without bond. And then if they're going to obstruct justice or try to influence their witnesses, that's another reason we can deny bond. But other than that, the bonds, sometimes you miss on some. Sometimes some people stay. But I would rather, and Al Johnson taught me this. He says, you'll never hear about somebody you left in jail that might have should have got a bond. But if you let somebody out that should have stayed in jail, that's what you'll hear about.
Absolutely. Home confinement. How do you? When do you? I mean, it seems kind of lenient to me as opposed to having a bond. How do you reach that decision? And I'll point to a case that I received a lot of comments from the public. Maybe about 2 months ago, there was a counselor who was alleged to have been hooking up with some high school kids at the school, and initially bond was denied, but then a little bit later, a week later, was granted that bond. It was from the magistrate's office. But it was given home confinement. I mean, get the bracelet on the leg, I guess, and everything. How do you determine that you think that's an okay way to monitor that person?
If I deny the bond, then the next step, it goes basically through the DA. And a lot of times the DA will work with the defense attorney, and they may come up with some kind of bond order. Mm-hmm. The DA has to set, in our county, the DA sets the perimeters for that. We use a wrist monitor. And they set up the GPS perimeters. That's something I can't really do just on seeing the guy in jail. That has to be done with a more study of the case and what's going on. So we go through the DA's office for that. And also, if I deny a bond, the person has a right by law to within 10 days to be heard by a Superior Court judge.
Is that an equivalent? I mean, is that an equivalent to being in jail, you think, the bracelet, the monitor?
No, it's not.
All right, time right now is
freedom.
8:52. So I'm leaving. I'm in Haralson County. I'm leaving. Got my coffee and my kid and everything, and I'm heading out the door, but you're already campaigning at 8:30 in the morning. What are you doing, Jason? So you stop me and you want to give me the 2-minute speech. Why should Haralson County voters punch your name at the ballot?
I got this job. I was selected for this job by a Superior Court judge who I admire greatly, Judge Mark Murphy. When there was an opening in the magistrate court, it had to be filled very quickly, and he called me and asked me if I would consider taking the job. Well, first thing I called my boss, both bosses. I called my boss and my wife, and asked them about this. And both of them kind of knew I had a court. From my dad, I had a thing for court. He selected me because of my character and the things that he has known I have done. And then 2 months later, by an overwhelming majority, the voters elected me to stay in that position. Since that time, we've made tremendous improvements with the online warrant system. We've got a 100% closure rate on our civil cases, and I've got over 100 hours of training specifically for magistrate court. So I'm experienced in the job. I'm dedicated to the job. You'll see me there every morning. I'm kind of sad this morning. I usually at the jail by 7:30 every morning, seeing who needs to get bonds, or who needs to have a first appearance hearing. Basically, I'm dedicated to the job, and I seek to improve the job. I want to use more technology and make it available, so you don't have to come to Buchanan all the time.
Jason Blackmon, Chief Magistrate for Haralson County, our guest this morning. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Good to talk to you, and appreciate you watching this morning and checking out. Compare our interview with Blaine Cochran, who was on the program about 2 weeks ago, week and a half, and he's a candidate for Chief Magistrate Judge. You can find both of those on the Newstalk 1330 WLBB Facebook page, and I believe on the Newstalk1330.com website. But again, thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Carl.
And have a great Wednesday, everybody.
You too.